Hello, welcome to Campervan Parts UK. I'm going to show you the SCA roof rack system, or the outside of canvas roof rack system. So, opening up the box here, what have we got inside? You've got the Thule Wingbar crossbars. We have two 1.3 metre length rails here, and within the fitting kit we have our custom super low profile crossbar brackets. We also have a full fitting kit, and with the fitting kit comes a T-bar in order to not only fit the roof rack but also to adjust it in future. So, having a quick look at the crossbars. So this is a Thule product and everything comes in this box. So in here we have the crossbars. We also have the top rubbers. We have the adjusters for underneath. We also have the rubber for the ends outside of the adjusters past where the brackets go in order to stop wind whistle, and you end up with 4 end caps. So the crossbars, we can start putting these together a bit. It's very simple. All that you need to do is you need to separate the rubber, and then the edge that you've ripped open is actually the outside edge. We put the side with the grooves on the top edge of the wing bar, and as you can see, I'm going to do this in real time so you can see how long it takes. It really doesn't take very long at all. And the bottom one goes in the lower rail. This is actually a reasonably new development. The original wing bar didn't have this split rubber. The bonus with this split rubber is it means that if ever in the future you want to use any of the Thule accessories, whether it be a bike carrier, a kayak carrier, whether you want to put a top box or anything else on the roof, with the end cap in place, it means that by simply lifting up the end, you can slide your accessories in without having to remove and cut the top rubber anymore. So this is really easy to use. Underneath you have these adjusters. These adjusters have numbers on them which run from 37 to 66. So it means that when you pop these in, your crossbar, your bracket slides in, but this adjuster, by having a measurement on there, as you'll see later when we come to fitting it across the length rails, it means that in order to adjust these to get them to the right length, it's very easy to make sure that each end is symmetrical, and if you do need to make a small adjustment, obviously with this measure in place, it means you haven't got to mess around with tape measures and things in order to do so. So it does make it incredibly easy when it comes to the fitting. This rubber, we'll do this at the end. This is to fill the gap. Once you've adjusted the bracket to the correct place, you can obviously fill the gap with this, which will obviously stop any wind whistle and things in the future. Inside the fitting kit, we've got all the fixtures and fittings. These are all stainless steel. So we've got the bolts to go through the length rail with stainless steel load spreading washers, nylocks and nut caps to go obviously underneath the elevating roof, which we will see as we start to fit it. And we have the end caps. The end caps do actually want to be fitted at this stage because of the fact that these aren't going to be accessible at the point that we've fitted it. So we're going to want to fit these now. The slide plates here, these can actually be fitted afterwards. So this cross rail, sorry, the length rail has been designed that the slide plate will drop in and out of the centre part of the rail. So this has been milled out in order that the cross rails, if they want to be removed and refitted, can be. Because obviously, as I've just said, the ends aren't going to be accessible once this is fitted, or it certainly isn't going to be accessible once it's fitted to an SCA roof. I think that's about it for on the bench. Let's go and have a look at the elevating roof and have a look at actually getting this fitted. Here we have an SCA roof. You can tell it's an SCA roof. The SCA roof has a gutter channel which runs on both sides of the elevating roof, which sits outside of the headlining inside the elevating roof. So these channels are actually outside of the canvas. So we've actually got the rail here, which has actually been specifically made. So you can see that this is exactly the right width and the length to obviously sit in the SCA channel. It is a specific system for the SCA roof, but we do have plenty of customers and traders that will use this roof rack system to fit on all elevating roofs, and what they do is rather than fit them here inside the headlining of the elevating roof, they will just put them on the top of the outsides of the elevating roof, so it sits outside of the canvas in much the same way as it does with the SCA. The only negative aspect to this obviously is by doing this it does sit slightly higher than it would do on this roof once we're finished. So you can masking tape up the channels and just use a sharp pencil to mark all the points. We found a centre drill actually is brilliant. Since we have started using these, it's made our lives incredibly easy. These aren't expensive things to buy. In fact, the one that you see here is actually a cheap one from a popular auction site. So it's probably only cost about sort of £2 or £3. So I'm just going to mark all the points quickly. I'm going to do it with the roof closed. Obviously you want to be very, very careful that you're not going to damage the elevating roof canvas whilst you do it. So I'm not actually going to drill all the way through. I'm going to elevate the roof in order to go all the way through the roof. But in order to mark it, it literally is just a simple case of just marking each point. The centre drill just goes through the points on the rail. So actually by doing this, you can't get it wrong, and each one of these fixings is going to be millimetre perfect in the right place. I really would recommend buying one of these if you're going to do more than one of these roof racks, because it really does make your life very, very easy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to elevate the roof. I'm going to drill out each one of these holes with a larger bit than I've used here. This is actually an imperial bit because it's what I could get hold of at the time, but I'm actually going to go through with an 8.5mm drill bit. So I'm going to elevate the roof, open all these up to 8.5mm, and then all I need to do is silicone and bolt this on. So let's come back to that in a moment. So with the roof elevated, it's just a case of finding the points where I've marked and opening them up to an 8.5mm hole. Obviously it comes outside of the canvas at this point, so actually this roof rack system can be fitted by one person, and it can be fitted in actually less than an hour. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my finger to find the points, obviously, where I need to come through. the drill is going to naturally find where it needs to go because I've obviously already piloted the holes up there, and it's just going to be a case of making a hole through. So there's 7 of these holes. It's just going to be a case of finding each one, there we go, and going through. So I'm going to do this for all 7 holes. Once I've done that, I'm going to clean the top of the roof properly. So I'm going to use some panel wipe in order to make sure that that's properly clean before putting a little bit of silicone on the length rails and bolting them through. So let me finish off drilling the holes, and we'll come back to this in a moment when I come to put the length rails on. So it's time to fit the length rails now. I find the easiest way to do this is to take the countersink M6 stainless steel bolts. I tend to drop 2 in whilst I get it positioned. So I'll just start with 2. Let's see, put it up to the rail. I don't know if you can see here, I've got a small ring of clear silicone around each of the holes. It's not so important with this being outside of the canvas as it would obviously being inside of the canvas, but you really don't want water coming in at any point that the roof isn't elevated. So it's always a good practice to put a bit of silicone around each of them. The rail does bolt up nice and tight to the elevating roof, so there's very little room for water ingression, but a little bit of silicone just guarantees that. So just lining it up, there it is. So that's 1. There we go. So that's obviously in the right place now. Normally what I would do is I would drop all of the other bolts through before I do it up, but for the purposes of this video and time, I'm sure you don't want to see me do all 7 up. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do these 2 that I've started, just so that you can see what I'm doing and what it looks like once it's done up. So within the kit you get a 5mm Allen key, but these bolts are actually 4, so you will need to find a 4mm Allen key in order to go in the tops of the countersink M6 bolts. So you can see under here the nut and bolt. Just going to do that up quickly, and we provide plastic nut caps to go over the nuts on the inside to make it all look really nice. Having said that, all of this is all stainless steel, but the nut cap just finishes it off nicely. Once you've done all 7, then it's a case of lowering the roof, and we'll come to fitting the crossbars. So now we've got the length rails on, the last bit is to fit the cross rails. The length rails can be easily cleaned. We've actually found that baby wipes are actually the easiest thing for cleaning any excess silicone residue from around the edges. The rails obviously need to be parallel to each other on both sides. The nice thing about the SCA roof is with the gutter there is only one place these can fit, but if you are fitting them outside of the canvas on a standard elevating roof, do just make sure that the rails are parallel to each other. The slide nuts can be placed inside the channel, and now it's a case of adjusting the crossbar. The lovely thing about the Thule system is that you do have measurements on here. I've set both of these to 64, so I'm now going to offer it up. And as you can see, it needs to come out a little bit, so it's a little bit too narrow. So all we need to do is slacken it off a little bit, position it to exactly where it needs to go. You can slide the adjuster to the bracket, there we go, that's sitting nice and square within the channel. Looking at it, this one's actually 66 and this one's 64, so very simple arithmetic. All we need to do is we need to adjust them both to 65. So by adjusting them equally, it means that obviously the distance is the same on both sides, and with the measurements on this two-lay system, it does mean that you don't have to mess around with a tape measure in order to get them adjusted. You don't need to do these up excessively tight, they do just need to be nipped up. It is a wing bar, so obviously the bulge part of the crossbar goes towards the front of the vehicle and the smaller end goes towards the back. It is like an aeroplane wing, so this is the way it's designed to go around. Yes, that's now fitting correctly, so it's now the correct width. What I'm going to do before I fit it is that you get a little bit of rubber which goes in the outsides in order to stop any wind whistle here. So just pop that piece of rubber in both sides, and then we just need to use the socket head bolts to fix them to the slide nuts. So I'm just going to do it up loosely. There we go. I'm actually going to slide the bar forwards. Most people will have them reasonably distanced apart, and then again you just need to do it up, not excessively. So that's now tight and binding. I'm going to do it a further quarter turn, but no more than that. It doesn't again need to be too tight. You can obviously damage the brackets if you do them up too tight. So that's now tight, another quarter turn, and that's all you need. So I'm going to do that twice for the back one, so that's the front one, do the same for the back one. That's the roof rack system finished. It really is as simple as that. I've done this roof rack system on my own without help, and I've done it in about an hour, so it really doesn't take very long.